Hey everyone, this is Brian from ActiveMelody.com. Well, this week's guitar lesson is a Jimmie Vaughan style lesson, and so Jimmie was obviously the brother to Stevie Ray Vaughan, and I think I read somewhere that he showed Stevie Ray how to play initially. So obviously the older brother to Stevie Ray, and a big influence on Stevie Ray's playing, but Jimmie has his own style that's very unique, I think. You can always tell it's his licks just within a few notes. And a lot of what gives him his signature sound is the fact that he'll take the same licks and just transpose them by using a capo when he plays. And so one of the things I did to honor that in this lesson is for the jam tracks, I've got two versions. I've got the key that I played in the intro, which is in the key of E, but I've also got one in the key of G. So if you want to play along with that jam track, you can put a capo on your 3rd fret here and take all these licks that we're about to learn, and you can just transpose them to a higher position on the neck just by using the capo there. So anyway, that would be something that you would hear Jimmie do. He plays in the key of G a lot. I see him capoing there on the 3rd fret. So we're going to split this lesson into 2 videos. In this video, we're going to take a look at the first half. But if you want to watch the second half, as well as download all the jam tracks and the tablature for everything, you're going to want to go to ActiveMelody.com and look for EP109. So let's go ahead and start with the first half. Alright, so let's talk through tone settings before we jump into the notes of this. Now I am playing on a new Stratocaster, new for me anyway. This is a Jimmie Vaughan signature series. How appropriate for this week's lesson, right? So you can see his signature here on the back of the headstock. Now these are made in Mexico, so they don't have the same resale value maybe as a US Strat, but they're not as expensive either, so they're very good guitar for the price. They come standard with these Texas special pickups, which are really hot and just great sounding. Awesome playing, awesome sounding guitar. So if you're in the market for a Stratocaster or an electric guitar, check out the Jimmie Vaughan Signature Series. Okay. Outside of that, I've got my tone. I've got my pickup selector switch on the middle pickup. My volume's at about 80%, and my tone for this pickup is at 100%. So it's all the way up on 10. I'm running through a Tube Screamer TS808 pedal by Ibanez, so I've got the overdrive at about 40%, and the level and the tone are at about 80% on that pedal. Now the only other thing I'm using is a little bit of reverb on the amp, and that's it. Very simple setup. Jimmie Vaughan has a very simple setup as well. You can see some of his rig rundown videos on YouTube if you ever do a search for that, and listen to his guitar tech explain that he usually uses I think a stock Boss tremolo pedal, and I know he's got 2 amps that he plays through, but I think everything is pretty basic. He doesn't have any fancy delays or phaser pedals or any of that stuff. So all right. So clean tone for the most part, a little bit of growl, but not much. Now, Jimmie Vaughan plays often with, he plays with his fingers. Back in the Thunderbirds days, I've seen videos of him playing with a pick, but for the most part, he's just using his fingers, and he plays like that. He kind of plucks. I didn't want to do that for this just because A, I'm not as good at playing that way, and B, I know a lot of you are pick players. So what I did was I found a kind of a nice compromise, and this is the way that I would do it. And now you can, if you're more comfortable playing with your fingers, go for it. That's cool. But the way that I'm going to do it is just by playing a hybrid technique. So I'm going to pick some strings, but I'm going to pluck some strings. Mainly this one string here, this high E string. I'm going to pluck that with my middle finger. So I'm going to show you that technique. And then another thing to point out is this thing is in the key of E. So we're going to start off in pattern 2 of the key of E. I'll explain what that means when I say pattern 2. But for premium members, I've got a version of the jam tracks. There's 2 versions of the jam track. There's one in the key of E, so it's missing the lead part, obviously. But there's one in the key of G. Now, if you want to try that one out, the way you're going to do that is you're going to put a capo on the 3rd fret and play all of these same notes licks that we're about to learn here in this, and you're just going to transpose them. So it's playing them down here. Instead of playing them down here, you're going to play them here. So now with the capo, you can have the open strings, and that's why you see Jimmie Vaughan use a capo. It allows him to play licks like Sounds a little out of tune, but he plays these, kind of doubles up his strings, and he'll play a lot of licks that have open strings. And by putting the capo, he can just take the same licks and just transpose them anywhere. And a lot of artists did that. Albert Collins does that as well. So if you ever see guys playing lead and you see them playing with a capo, that's why. They don't want to relearn their licks. They have their bag of tricks that they have, and they stick to them. And I think that's kind of cool. And that also gives him a very signature sound. So anyway, I wanted to include that so that you guys can start thinking about, as you're learning and growing in your knowledge, you can start transposing this stuff and playing it, in a different keys. You're not limited to just the keys that I'm showing you. And some of you may want to adapt his style of playing and just always go with the capo. So, and you can do the math and figure out where you need to put the capo depending on the key. But that's, obviously there's artists that do that and they make great careers out of that. So just another option for you. All right, so as I mentioned, we start this in the key of E. We start this in pattern 2 of the minor pentatonic scale for the key of E. So pattern 1, just as a quick refresher, would be here. And your nut becomes kind of your root fret. That's where all those open strings are. Now pattern 2 then would be here. So all of this is covered, by the way. There's 5 patterns. They're all covered on the Blues Lead course, which is available at activemelody.com. So if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, and when I say pattern, I go through all those patterns, all 5 patterns, and give you example licks. So, but I'm going to assume that a lot of you have already done that or know what I mean when I say pattern 2. So we start this lick like this. So it's just a blues shuffle in E. That's what I did for the rhythm track. It's real simple. And we start with this. So let's learn that. Let's learn these first 3 notes. So we're going to start with our ring finger on the 2nd string, 3rd fret. And as soon as I pluck it, I'm going to slide it up to the 5th fret. 2nd string. Now, we're going to come to the 1st string on the 3rd fret. And remember what I said, when we're playing these first string notes, we're going to pluck. So let me show you the notes first with the left hand, then I'll show you what I'm doing with the right hand. And then we're going to come up to the 5th fret, 1st string. Very easy. Those are your first 3 notes. And the timing, just... You're going to want to make sure you listen to how I play it and try and get the timing of that right. Now watch the right hand. So we pick that note, 2nd string. Now watch this. Pluck that note and pluck that note. And that's all I'm doing. I'm using my middle finger for that, and I'm just plucking. Now if you want to use your ring finger, if that makes it easier, go for it. But that plucking gives you a different tone than picking it. Picking it is too uniform, I think, because it's plastic on the string instead of flesh on the string. There's a different tone when you have your fingers on there. So, okay, so the second time through I went. Now watch this. Those notes are the same. Now watch this. Now we're going to pluck that. So it's the 3rd fret, 1st string. We're plucking that. And then I'm going to introduce my pick onto the 1st string. So we're plucking the first one, and then we're going to go. Now that's done with a pick, those 3 notes. 1, 2, 3. Now watch how I'm doing that with the right hand. Let's do the right hand first. It's a downstroke and then an upstroke. The downstroke is on the 1 string. The upstroke is on the 2 string. The left hand, you have an open string there, and then I use my pointer finger here on the 3rd fret, 2nd string. I did that upstroke there, and then I flicked it as I took my finger off. And by doing that, it's a pull off. It allows you to play those 3 notes really quick, like that. And you can see it sounds really, really fast, and it is fast. But if you look at the motion that's going on, just study the right hand. I'm just going like this. Not that hard. So that's all I'm doing for that. So if we back up, we have. So remember, we're going to pluck that note, and then we're going to go and play those three with a pick. Now the next thing I played was this. Now watch that. All of that is being plucked with my right hand, except for that second string when I slid from... So I started it here, 3rd fret, 2nd string, slid it up to the 5th fret. Again, we've already done that. Then we come to the 3rd fret, 1st string, and I'm going to go back and forth between the 5th fret and the 3rd fret on the 1st string. Now, see what the right hand's doing? So again, it's just that plucking thing, and it allows you to get some really good dynamics to go. You can start it off soft, or start off loud rather, and then kind of make it soft, and then build back up. You can do a little more, I think. So when after that, I did 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. Now watch this. For that, I slid up to the 7th fret on the 1st string, and then back to the 3rd fret, 1st string. So when we play this note, we're going to give it some vibrato, which is kind of hard to do on that 1st string there because you feel like you're going to pull it off the fretboard there. So you can really only push it one way, which is this way. So let's back up. From the start we have... Alright, so the next part goes like this. Very Jimmie thing to do. So we're gonna start from the 3rd fret, 2nd string, slide up to the 5th fret, 3rd fret, 1st string, 5th fret, 1st string. We've already done these notes. See this little box we just keep playing in? It's all right there in that pattern too. Now watch this. Now for this, we're going to take that 3rd fret, 1st string, push it slightly sharp. Hear it? Now watch this. Then you take your fingers off the fretboard and play string 1 and string 2. Downstroke with the right hand, upstroke with the right hand. Downstroke on 1, upstroke on 2. So, and after that, you're going to play. Now, this is a little bit tricky, just because it'll be kind of different for you, but it doesn't mean it's difficult. It just means it's going to be kind of, maybe for some of you, maybe a little awkward. But what you're going to do is you're going to play strings 1 and 2. You're going to play both strings, but you're going to start here on the 3rd fret, 2nd string, and you're going to slide up to the 5th fret on the 2nd string, playing strings 2 and 1 at the same time. Now, string 1 is an open E string, so that's the E note. Well, when you slide this 2nd string from the 3rd fret to the 5th fret, you're playing an E note there. So really, you're playing 2 E notes, and there's a power though in doubling that up. It just gives it more of a, I don't know how to even describe it. There's a drone effect that goes on by having the 1 string ring out. So you can see, once you slide up once, you're going to come back and slide up again. Then slide it down. I didn't pick it that time. And then I did a pull off there on the 3rd fret, 2nd string. So that'll be the challenge, is going from here, sliding it down, and doing the pull off without bumping the other things. And when you do it up to tempo, it sounds like that. Now here's another little technique that'll help with this little tip. When you do your pull off from here, pull off this way. See the direction I'm pulling? I'm pulling this way, because what'll happen is if you happen to hit that 1 string, that's okay. Now if you pull off this way, you can bump that the G string rather, and it's not going to make sense. But if you bump this string, it works. So anyway, that's that technique. So if we put that little lick together, that 3rd lick, it goes. So let me do it again slowly. Okay. Now there's one other thing to learn, which is, so that's a very Jimmie thing. He does that all the time. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start on the 2nd fret 3rd string. We're going to slide up to the 4th fret on the 3rd string. And that's done with a pick. Now we're going to take our middle finger and we're going to pluck that twice on the 1 string, the open E string. Now watch this. So then I take my pointer finger and I come down to the 3rd fret 2nd string and I pluck that with my middle finger. So I'm plucking now on the 2nd string. And then as soon as I pluck it, I flick it with my pointer finger here on the left, on my left hand, and I do a pull off. So when we do that together slowly, it goes. Okay, and then we're going to slide back down to the 2nd fret 3rd string, open G string, or the 3rd string. So you're going to slide up, play the open G string, and then your last note there is the 2nd fret 4th string. And that's how he does, you know, a lot of times you'll hear guys like Albert King play something. Let me get in the right key here. Oh yeah, he played. Well, that's what he's trying to emulate, I think, when he's doing that. But you can't bend here. I mean, you could, but it would, I guess, especially if you're playing that on acoustic, you couldn't do it. And it kind of gets awkward to start bending, you know, down on the 3rd string there, this close to the nut, because you don't have as much leverage as you do higher up. So I think what he's doing is he's simulating that by sliding it up, and that's how he's getting that effect. All right, let me play. That's the notes. Now I'm finding myself as I'm doing that, when I'm doing that, I've done it 2 ways. So try this. One may be easier for you, but when you slide up and you play that 1 string, you can either use your ring finger and do it, or your middle finger. For some of you, it may be easier to do your ring finger and then use your middle finger on the 2nd string. Now I find myself doing kind of either or. But anyway, that's that lick. Now the 2nd time through, that last time through, I went. So it starts exactly the same. That's the same. Now instead of doing the, all I did was come down to the 2nd fret 3rd string, play strings 3, 2, I pluck 2, that's the open B string and the open 2 string, and then watch this. There's a hammer on there on the 1st fret. So after that hammer on, then I come down and play with my middle finger on the 2nd fret 4th string. And really those are the notes in the E chord. Okay, so let's back up. We'll play these last two licks that we just learned. Here's the first one. Now, the last thing that I did after I played that note is I jumped down and played the B 7th chord, which is your turnaround. So I took my middle finger and came down to the 2nd fret 5th string, and then I put my pointer finger on the 1st fret 4th string, ring finger on the 2nd fret 3rd string, and played those 3 notes, which is strings 5, 4, and 3. And that's what it looks like. Alright, so let's back up and play everything slowly up to that point. Now let me call out how you count this in. So it starts like this. It goes 1, 2, 3. So this lick starts on the and of 3. So if we're counting it, so the and is between the 3 and the 4. It says 3 and 4. So if you had said 1 and 2 and 3 and, see how it came in right on the and? So that's kind of, it's considered like some pickup notes that happen right before the measure, which starts here. Or sorry, it starts here. So that starts on the 1 of the next beat. 1, 2, 3. So this note is really the start, and this is kind of your pickup. Those two notes are, they're pickup notes. Okay, so here we go. We have 1, 2, 3, 2, 3. And that's really all there is to the first half. Now the second half comes up to this. It's a little bit of a Freddie King influence there on that part, but I'm going to show you all of that in the part 2 video. So before you move on to part 2 though, make sure you go over this first part, especially these legs. Very Jimmie. Those are, you gotta know those if you're interested in playing his style. Okay, so that's all we have in part 1. I'll see you in part 2.